I spent some time this week interviewing some CEOs, asking them what it took to lead an organization that was somehow managing to stay resilient. And one thing really stood out: what you are made of really counts. And that's the thinking I'd like us to explore a bit more with this week's episode, which is all about being resilient for change. Let's get started. Hi, this is Simon Phillips. Welcome back. I hope you've been enjoying the videos over the last few weeks, and thank you for the comments that you've been sending in. I just want to say that it's a real privilege to support people who are out there making change happen on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for your comments, and I just hope I can help again today. Today's episode is all about being resilient for change, and it's part of a whole process of continuous personal and professional development. So if this sort of thing really ticks a big box for you, then give me a like and subscribe, because I'll be back here every week and I wouldn't want you to miss anything on our journey. So for those of you who are out there trying to lead others through change, I wanted to start today by thinking about you, your team, and maybe even your organization. And I want to start with three things that you are not. You are not a job title. I know loads of people who the first thing they say when they're asked, tell me a little bit about you, is they start with their job title. I'm a manager, I'm a leader, I'm a nurse, I'm a builder. You are not any of those things. That's just some things that you choose to do with your time. Equally, a team is not the outputs that they produce. You're not a finance team. You're not leading an operations team. The team is made up of a bunch of unique individuals, and they're probably capable of doing so much more than the specific team title that they've been given. And finally, an organization is so much more than its structure. It's helpful when you start looking at an organization to see the structure, to see how work is organized and how things are meant to be done. But an organization is actually based on much more: the values, the vision, the opportunities, the way that people interact, the culture. All of those things are much more about what an organization is, because that organization can go from doing one thing to doing another if all of those values and vision and mission are in place. So it doesn't really matter what the organization is doing today. What matters is how they're doing it, what underpins the way that they approach work. That's what an organization really is. And all of these things count, because if you're going to be resilient to change, you've got to be open to the idea that what others think you do today could be different tomorrow. What even you think you do today based on your job title or your team name or your organizational activity, all of that could change tomorrow if you are open to the idea that you're not defined by a title. There are two types of definition. There's those things that we are given. So we're given a name. We're given an environment to work in. We're given some specific activities to do. All of those things are givens. But of way more importance is those things that we choose to do. And if we're going to be resilient to change, we need to be very aware, acutely aware of the things that we can choose. So I have an L4 framework: live, love, learn, and leave one legacy. Each of those things are the things that we get to choose on a day-to-day basis. We choose what we're going to strive for. We choose who we love. We choose what we want to learn, how we want to grow ourselves and develop our skills and our mindset. And we choose what legacy we want to leave behind. You see, being resilient for change is knowing the answer of who are you. Now you may say, well, if somebody asks me who I am, I tell them my name. But your name is not who you are. Your name is something that you carry around with you that was given to you by someone else, or even if at some point you've chosen a name for yourself, it's still something that is just, if you like, it's just a label. It's not really who you are. Who you are is way more important. Who you are is your values. It's how you see the world. It's how you interact with others. It's how you engage with the world at large. Who you are is based on how you make others feel. Who you are is your answer to your goals and your vision. Who you are is more fundamentally underpinned by your why. And once you're clear on your why, once you know what it is that you want to do, how you'd like to contribute, who you want to be, once you know that, you will be a lot more resilient to change, because change is just an outside effect. You, if you know who you are, you're able to decide how you're going to respond to that outside effect. Some of you may be aware of the equation E plus R equals O, where E is an episode, an event, and R is your response to it. Now, the great thing about that is we can always choose our response, and O is the output. But I want to introduce you today to a different equation. This equation is C plus R equals L. In this equation, C is change. C is that outside impact. It's things that are going on in the environment, things that are going on in our lives, things that are going on in the world that impact us. All of those things that are changing. And we know from the last year that change is accelerating right now. There's so many things that are changing in our environment, so many things that are different to how they used to be. And we've got to deal with that somehow and stay resilient. And that's what the R is in this equation. R is your ability to stay resilient. And we're going to break that down in a moment. And if you get the R right, if the R, your resilience, is strong, then that is what leads us on to the L, which is life. And I want you to consider that. Let's go back to our example of individuals, teams and organizations, because it's exactly the same equation. For me as an individual, change may happen. My resilience will determine how I respond to that and what I make of that opportunity. And that effectively, on a day-to-day basis, builds my life. As a team, there are changes, and our team resilience enables us to decide, are we going to pivot? Are we going to do something different? Are we going to actually just get our heads down and fight through this? And that creates the life of that team. And then at organizational level, there will be macro changes in the industry, macro changes almost at country level that will impact that organization. Is that organization resilient enough to cope with those changes? Or are they going to instead die away because they can't actually change? They can't deal with those macro changes. But if they can, of course, then the life of that organization will continue. C plus R equals life. And the most critical element, of course, is your resilience. But what's resilience made up of? Well, do you know what? Resilience is literally, are you willing and are you able to cope with the change? And our willingness to cope with the change boils down to one thing only: our courage. Are we courageous enough to create some new opportunities, to create a new environment in which we may thrive? And are we courageous enough to love? It's a strange word to use, you might think, but actually love is so powerful in every single context of our lives. The love for our organization, the love for our teams, the love for ourselves. Love isn't just some sort of fluffy notion. it actually boils down to so many empowering things. It's our ability to recognize our contribution, to understand what drives us and why we're so driven to support other people. And if we can have all that courage, then we're absolutely willing to be resilient. Now all we've got to do is learn some skills. And there are 4 skills that underpin resilience. There's curiosity. There's our ability to collaborate with others. There's our desire to contribute. And there's our understanding that we need to be continuously developing. Our ability to be resilient depends on those 4 things. Can we be curious enough to try to really deeply understand what's going on? Can we collaborate with others because there will be new opportunities, there will be new things to look at, and actually we don't always have the right answers. And in fact, in times of change, none of us necessarily have the right answers. We just have some hypotheses, some things that we want to test, and you'll go so much quicker if you collaborate. And then there's contribution. When there's so much change happening around us, if you can contribute and support others, they will in return contribute and support you. And finally, what change actually teaches us is unless you are continuously developing, being curious, getting out there, understanding new things, exploring new ideas, then actually change will defeat you. So to be resilient to change, you need to be all of those 4 things, whether that's as an individual, a team, or an organization. And the reason why this all contributes to our life is because life is built on a daily basis. Life is not some vague notion. Life is the things you do, the things you say, the way you behave, the way you interact with other people, the way you choose to engage with change. That's what determines the lives that we lead. So as you think about how can I be more resilient, I want you to realize it's just a daily choice. It's just something that if you haven't done really well for yourself over the last few months, you can literally wake up tomorrow morning and choose to be more resilient. You can choose to be curious. You can choose to look around you and see who else you may be able to support or who could collaborate with you to make something new happen. All of these choices are available to you at any moment in time. So you can choose to be more resilient tomorrow, and all of a sudden your life will be very different. I hope that's been useful for you. Throw me a comment down below. Get in touch. What's the challenge that you're facing right now? Let me know. And don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you back here next week. Hey, I know that many of you are struggling out there right now, so don't think about this notion of resilience and feel judged in any way by what I've said. A big part of resilience is being able to lean on other people when we're feeling low, and equally to support others when we've got a lot more resilience. So if you're on a low ebb right now, come and join us at Simon Phillips TCM. We've got a community there that we're building that is full of people who really want to help and support others while they grow themselves. So if that sort of community appeals to you, come and join us, and I'll see you there.